Well, hey, welcome everybody to another Tech Tip Tuesday at its brand new time in space. My name's Ken Close. I am engineer, Healy lover, and USA member since way back when it started, and I'm excited about that. Um, I am joined here by a couple of amazing, extraordinary gentlemen. We've got Jake Barron, head of ops, in he's over there in Miami. I'm not Miami,
Yeah,
Orlando. Right.
they little vacation in Miami. No?
I'm taking you to Miami, buddy. We're gonna go on vacation. So
Yeah,
he's in corporate office. Hey, Jake, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
great. Hey, everyone, welcome.
Welcome, welcome. And we've got Henry Pena, the head of onboarding USA. No, global. How about that? Let's go bigger, right? Or go home. So hey, Henry, thanks for joining us.
Hey Ken, thank you so much and welcome everybody.
Well, awesome. I got we've got some great people here, you guys. Henry and Jake, these guys, I love it when they join and we get on board here with Tech Tip Tuesday. We get all techy and all sciencey and start to answer questions. People are getting solutions left and right. So if you guys are brand new to Tech Tip Tuesday, hopefully you're getting a feel for what's going on, right? And if not, if you've been here before, then you know, but maybe you're going to learn something new anyway. But here's how it works. This is a chat-based forum. It's really open and up to you guys. The audience is our guide. You guys bring a question into the chat. We will unpack it live and sort out the details right here. And we can talk about we have talked about probably everything under the sun, quantum and frequency and the apps and all that kind of stuff. So what we can't talk about is we can't talk about how to treat, prevent, or address diseases. Okay, specific conditions in the body around disease and disorder. We've got resources to point you to, but we don't really recommend or talk about any of that stuff here. So if that sounds fun to you guys, hey audience, let's light up the chat. And Jake, Henry, you guys ready to rock? You're
Absolutely ready over here.
you're muted, Jake.
Okay, there we go. Yes,
I did
I
the
am
same
ready
thing.
now that I am unmuted. I'm ready to go.
I did the same thing when I first got here.
Yeah.
Can't hear me. All right, chat. Let's see what we got going on. So, Linda says, I'm excited to hear more about the new Healy HighWave. Of course, right? Right. Jake was like, he sends me a message, hey, I think we might have some questions about that. All
Well,
right.
yeah. I mean, right. This is the biggest, I would say, development uh, for Healy, really since the Healy was launched. I would even say, even the MagHealy is an amazing product too, with a specific purpose, so useful from the water application to atmosphere to the making programs and that kind of thing. But what we're able to do here with HighWave and take your existing Healy and just really take it to the next level. And like I know there's not a ton of information out there yet, and kind of partly the reason for that is this launch is being done in different places around the world, phased over the course of June. So in the Americas, we had the event in Mexico City last weekend, and that's when it launched for us here. The world tour is moving to South Korea this next weekend, which is where the launch for the APAC region will be. And then the following weekend after that, it moves to Munich in Germany, where the launch for the EMEA market will be. So there's some information is available. We'll show you here in a little bit, the details that you can find as far as the different presentations and brochures and that kind of stuff too. But also there will be additional trainings coming, later this month to more in depth the science behind exactly and all that kind of stuff too. Because yeah, I mean, for those of you that have seen the product and seen everybody wearing this, basically they're wearing their Healy on their wrist, So it's like, well, what exactly is that? I don't have one with me, so I can't really demonstrate it here. They're very hard to come by. They sold out super fast within the first few hours, both in Mexico and also US and Canada. We have more coming from Germany. We'll have more coming pretty much every week, but there's a lot of demand for this new product as well. And once you hear about the benefits, also, I think everyone's gonna want one of these because it's the most convenient way. And really, depending on I think it's going to become everyone's go-to for their number one way to use it. Yes, you will still use the cables for microcurrent and still vibrate the frequencies into the information field and still use your MagHealy and that kind of thing. But it's interesting. I know you'll be able to talk to this a lot as far as when we're talking high frequency, like what exactly we're talking about, because we have the Healy. When you go through like a Healy program, you go through there's a whole frequency pool for each program. Anywhere up to 400 different frequencies in one program pool, and some of those frequencies are really low, like 1 hertz, or all the way up to the output limit for Healy is 1 megahertz, so it's 1,000.
A million hertz.
Yeah, exactly. So you might see your frequencies depending on the program. It starts low, and those are the ones that you can feel, right? Those are the ones you're like, oh, I feel that sensation as well. The lower frequency ones, the high frequency ones, you don't notice as much. And it's interesting because we've talked a lot on Tech Tip Tuesday about, okay, you might see the frequency is generated with no currents flowing message. That might pop up when it switches to a lower frequency because it takes a little bit more power. There's more resistance to get those frequencies delivered to your body, and then it switches to a higher frequency, and then that message goes away. And you find that balance there. And essentially, what we're doing here with HighWave is that, as we've discussed, the lower the frequency, the harder it is to get it distributed throughout the body evenly. And with the technology of HighWave, we're taking a carrier frequency, so a much higher carrier frequency as well, that higher than the Healy itself can output. So, but you can use it with all of your existing programs, the IMF programs as well, and it's taking those existing frequencies that are very beneficial, and it's using this higher frequency carrier wave to distribute it evenly throughout your entire body to every cell from head to toe. So, you might have a low frequency, a program that uses some lower frequencies that are harder to transmit. It's now using this to distribute it evenly throughout your entire body. So it's essentially, and for those of you that were at the event in Mexico City, Marcus is going to talk more about this too in some of the upcoming trainings, but the technology that we have to be able to measure too, if you're wearing the HighWave on your right wrist and sending the frequencies, if you've seen the pictures, there's 2 metal plates on the bottom. So this is not just a coil strapped to a wristband or anything like that. This is much beyond. This is patented technology as well. It's actually attaching that carrier wave to the existing frequencies in your current programs as well. And if you measure what frequencies are in your other arm on the other side, or your toes, or whatever, it's all equal throughout. They're entirely throughout the entire body also, which is huge because a lot of us just use our wristbands, and yes, it's convenient and whatever, but a lot of the programs, like the Mind programs and that kind of thing, you're meant to put the adhesive electrodes on the mastoid bones, and a lot of people don't do that because it's not as convenient and whatever. Because they're there for a reason, though, because it's easier to get the frequencies. It's closer to where they actually are designed to be for some of those programs. But with HighWave, you can touch this to your wrist and it will just deliver it throughout your entire body. You could touch it to your leg and it'll deliver it evenly throughout your entire body. So it doesn't even really matter where you wear it. Of course, it's designed for the wrist, but you can just touch it to your skin anywhere. And it's using those 2 biocompatible metal plates that are on the bottom there to evenly distribute the frequencies throughout the entire body. And the test of, there's been a lot of studies done on this before we even launched this as well, and the results that some people are getting like instantly, whether it's greater energy or just more mental balance and that kind of thing too, is really just amazing. That when you're delivering these evenly throughout the entire body, how much more effective that it can be. And there's still a place for wristbands and microcurrent. Yes, this is not actually delivering microcurrent. This is a different modality here. So we have the coil, we have the wristband or the electrodes with the microcurrent, and then we have this new one which is generating this electrical field and transmitting frequencies evenly throughout your entire body too. So it's new for all of it. It's still new for me, new for Henry, new for Ken. I don't actually have one here, but when you look more into the technology behind it, it's actually very simple, because it's really just using this carrier wave to make everything more efficient at that point too. And Kenya, let me turn it over to you for a little bit as well, because this is definitely the biggest point we wanted to discuss on the call today, because I know there's going to be a lot of questions.
We kind of anticipated that with a new launch. There's and it's understanding its technology. So let's do that for a second. As Jake mentioned, Healy has an opportunity to run from 0.1 hertz to 1 million hertz, 1 megahertz, right? That's the bandwidth in which the frequency or the Healy was designed to function within. And as he mentioned, each one of these programs within a program group, they have their own little pool of frequencies to accomplish the mission of that program, right? If you're running, I don't know, if you're running a mental balance program or a muscle program, the program itself has a pool of frequencies it uses and reads your resonant field to pull the right ones for your body, right? If we both ran the same program, if all three of us ran the same, I don't know, muscle program, and we watched the frequencies on the app on the screen, you would see there would be some variances within those programs, because it's attached to my body or Henry's body or to Jake, and it pulls what's needed for your resonance. Okay, so it's the same kind of concept, but that's through, say, microcurrent, or it's done through the coil. The carrier wave, as Jake mentioned, the carrier, how do those frequencies move? Do they move through air? Do they move through electron oscillation? Do they move through, I mean, different frequencies are designed to move more efficiently in water, some in through air, some along the terrain of the earth, some bounce from the ionosphere back. I mean, frequencies are designed for navigation, right? Where are they going? What are they doing? And how are they coherent with whatever environment that they're addressing? So when we're looking at cell structures have frequency also. And so we have coherent waves and incoherent waves for specific cell structures. But again, how do we get them in there? How do we speak to the cells? And the way that that's done is various. Microcurrent is an electron flow, right? So there's actually current electrons coming from the Healy. The origination of those electrons is the battery, right? It's just this pool of energy, right, within the battery. And then the hardware in the Healy itself converts it to a certain current level, and then essentially places meaning on it. If we talk as a carrier wave, when we're using the reference carrier wave, it's essentially a device that we can assign meaning to and move it along to its destination. Okay, so the microcurrent is a carrier modality. It's current flow, electron flow, and then oscillating within those electrons is the frequency, the information of the program, the specific program. With the coil, then it's taking that same electron flow, converting it into a magnetic signal. Now, this is a signal that goes through the air. That's its transport vessel, is through the air, right? It's in space. But its field has a proximity limit. Okay, it's got the maximum effective field range of the coil of the magnetic field, it's within a bubble of about a meter, right? Or about a ball the size of a yardstick, right? It's a big ball. That's its maximum effective range. And you're within it because you're wearing the Healy. And there's two fields that are simultaneously being transmitted, and you're in that field. So again, we're taking the electron flow, we're converting it to a magnetic signal. There's a bit of a signal loss there, by the way, right? And then that signal emits out of the Healy into your body. Your body then converts it back to electron flow with the same information of the frequencies. Your body's the antenna picking it up. And again, there's a bit of a loss there. Okay, so then your body discerns the information and the cell structures attune to it. Now we're talking about a different modality. Okay, now I didn't talk about the quantum field modality with the HealAdvisor because that's not where we're at right now. We're at the Healy hardware and what plugs into the ports at the bottom of the Healy. What plugs into the ports is what takes that electron flow and converts it to some other modality, right? And now we're talking about the HighWave. Okay, so that I love the name, by the way, because it's instead of 1 megahertz, it's 5 megahertz, right? It's 5 million hertz. It's a much higher capacity for frequency, but it's a carrier. It's a carrier. And those high frequency carriers, as Jake said, sometimes you watch these frequencies on your app, and some of them, the low ones, usually below about 500 hertz. You'll see you sometimes have to crank up the intensity so you don't get that message that there's no current flowing. That's because they're closer to density, meaning the density, the matter, the material form of your body, they're closer to that frequency, and it takes more energy to get through density. It doesn't take as much energy to get through air, does it? Right? It doesn't, to move something through air is easy. What about moving something through water? A little more difficult, right? What if you're moving something through solid mass? It doesn't move very easily. It takes more energy and it takes a different frequency. So when we're trying to move things through density through the body, we have to increase the energy to do so. And but you notice that those higher frequencies that the app is transmitting, you see that they really never ever have a problem getting through your body.
Mhm.
So again, with the high wave, higher carrier wave, it's not going to have a problem getting anywhere. It's omnipresent
Yeah.
in space and time. Omnipresent, meaning whatever it's attached to, it's infusing every component of it, aka your body. Not just your body, your pet's body. I mean, I'm already in the engineering brain going, well, I know what else we can do with this. Right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I could strap this to the stem of a plant. Trust me, I'm already working on that. I could strap this guy to the stem of a plant and I could infuse frequencies into that living organism, and it's going to go through the entire cell structure because life is life, no matter what its vessel. The body, whether it's an animal, a plant, any living organism, we can do that. So I'm already playing with the ideas of what we can do with this thing. And as you know, in the biohacking world, I might have my Healy with my wristbands and microcurrent. I'll have another Healy with the coil strapped on, doing a coherent program while I'm running the MagHealy that's maybe energized my water or as well as the environment. Now I've got the HighWave, right, that I can also add another component to my body. And I get this question a lot. But Ken, man, that's just too much. Isn't that too much? It's the truth is that your body is aware of 400 billion bits of information per second. Now, 400 billion bits of information per second. You and I, as we're talking, perceiving, learning, understanding, we're aware of 2,000 bits. 2,000 bits, but your body, that reticular activating system within this intelligence of this body, is 400 billion bits of information per second. So it can discern way more than 3 or 4 Healys and a MagHealy. Trust me, it can discern that. Doesn't mean you won't have a biological effect. I'm still saying be aware of your body because that's a lot of information. Some people get overwhelmed. But again, I'm already trying to figure out how I can biohack with this thing. And like Jake said, I don't have one. We don't have one in our hands to play with yet, but it's coming soon.
Yeah. Yeah. And back to the carrier wave, you know, as we mentioned, the Healy itself has that 1 megahertz limit. The carrier wave used by HighWave is 5 megahertz, so it's 5 times higher than what the current Healy can output as well. So like when you're, as kind of mentioned, those higher frequencies, when you're, say you're running a cosmic growth and it's sending 832 kilohertz or whatever, like, yeah, that was very easy to be transmitted. And this is kind of like, it's cutting through all the traffic and going everywhere in the body. There's like no resistance at that point too. And I think it's also to point out that, you know, when people talk about high frequency, and sometimes there's concerns, well, okay, well, is that okay? Is that safe? And that kind of thing. And we're still using the same power of the Healy. This is a low power device. This isn't like amplifying this to where there's a huge battery now and we're sending out massive signal here. So this is still low power, high frequency. This isn't high power, high frequency as well too. Just because that's something that's important to keep in mind when people start talking about high frequency and, okay, well, is that okay and whatnot.
So think about this too, folks. The programs are still going to work from the Healy 2 app, right? You got the Healy 2 app, and so it's still, as you notice how you connect the Healy to the HighWave base, right? That's wearing on your body, and as Jake mentioned, on the back side of that base, there's a couple of metallic connections that touch your skin, and that touching of your skin can be touching of your skin anywhere. And as mentioned, that signal, it because it's touching the skin. Think about this for a second. We have to go to the very tiny. It's really hard to comprehend if we're just touching the skin right here. How can we be feeling this or getting this in our little toe? Okay, well, that's because every molecule within every cell of your body is united. There's no separation. The only time you separate the molecular structure of one body is when it's another body. I mean, every molecular component of this body is connected. And the way it's connected is through light energy. And just below light are some of these high frequencies: terahertz, megahertz, gigahertz, kilohertz, all the way down to hertz. The higher you go in frequency, the closer you get to light. The closer you get to light, the closer you get to the unification field that our body lives within. All right. Now we're up in the higher megahertz frequencies. Now we're getting so close to that unified field, right? And we're touching the skin. We're unifying all of the molecules within every cell because that's how they communicate. Okay. When we magnify down to the very tiny, we actually don't see solid matter. We see energy. We see oscillation. We see movement, right? And we keep looking smaller and smaller.
Oh, Ken, it froze up for me because
same over here.
as Ken was getting smaller and smaller and smaller, I think he shrunk down a little too small.
Yeah, he reached the quantum field.
Yeah, no, but yeah, this is going to be a big topic for the next couple of months. This isn't like we're just going to discuss today on Tech Tip Tuesday for a little bit and that's it. You know, this is going to be on a regular basis. We'll get new information. We'll have additional trainings as well to get people fully comfortable and understanding of how exactly this works and how best to use it also. And I know we've already, so Ken will be back here in a minute after he jumps back in, but we already have questions about, you know, okay, how it can be used and how do we combine this with our other existing routine as well, because yeah, this is another new way to use your Healy, which is very cool also. So yeah, I think we can move on to some of these other questions here. So the question about if someone has a rod in their wrist, can they wear the HighWave effectively on the other wrist? It doesn't matter which wrist you wear it on. You know, technically you could wear it on your ankle too, as Ken mentioned, just put it on your thigh or whatever. As long as it has good contact with the skin, you're going to get the benefits throughout your entire body as well there too. So that should be okay in that instance. And then we have a question that
Yeah.
says, what is the earliest version of the Healy the HighWave works with? Which is great. And from what I understand, only the very first version is the one that it is not compatible with. Henry, I think that was
Yeah, that's this again. I'm sure that as information starts developing, we're gonna get more details. But from what I understand, it should be the first one, which is the ones that technically should be the ones prior to July 7th of 2021. If I'm anything after that, I understand that it should work.
Sorry, guys.
So Kenny, it looks like you joined the call, and then
Jake
Jay
goes.
got kicked out.
With our new time, and it's like interesting how the internet or whatever, now I didn't even have any of this problem. We didn't have any of this problem in a different time, but now we got a lot of people probably working and using the bandwidth. Again, this is a great testimonial to understanding bandwidths and wavelengths and stuff, because everything has a limit. Everything has a limit. And even light has a limit. And as science discovers more and more energy fields, we'll see how that transpires, right? So let's see, where are we? What did I miss? Sorry about
So far so I don't know if you noticed, Ken, that the Sharda did ask a few questions regarding the Healy HighWave. So Jay was answering her first question, but I think I think we need to go deeper into that. Again, as we mentioned, always we're not medical professionals, so there may be some of the things that will probably have better answers in the instructions for use that you're gonna find within the box of the Healy HighWave. Because I completely understand, because Jay was saying that yes, it doesn't matter where you place the Healy HighWave, it will reach anywhere in your body because of the carrier frequency. But I think what Charlotte seems to be asking is more of a medical question in regards to whether they have a metal rod in a specific part of the body. If it reaches everywhere in the body the same, so does that mean that it doesn't matter where the rod is, the
that.
person should not wear the Healy kind of thing?
That's a great question, because frequency is all frequency is, I don't know, this is not necessarily limited, but it is harnessed to density. And like I mentioned before, different frequency bandwidths are designed for different mediums. Some again orbit along the surface of the Earth. Some orbit within underwater, which is a different density. There's sonar waves. There's just simply AM waves, which is like an amplitude modulated frequency that moves along the Earth. There is microwaves that can go atmospheric and almost everywhere, which is millimeter waves. So the density, say metal versus skin cell, or the atomic structure of anything, any material, the atomic structure dictates what frequencies are most optimized. So if you've got implants in the body, they are going to this carrier is going to orchestrate itself differently. And again, I mean, from an engineering perspective, I understand the purpose of a frequency, and where they're used very specifically because of the medium. All right. And we're talking about the body, and the bodies were never designed to have metal in them, as far as implants, but they're very useful in today's society, right? We have the technology that we can bring someone back into capability by implants, and that's great. Just understand that you're going to need to assess um, the effects on your body, um, because sensitivity to a implant, the body, any foreign object, again, a virus, a splinter in your finger, or an implant, the body's going to need to make peace with it or reject it. And so that's all done at the molecular level, the level of intelligence within our bodies. And because certain implants in certain areas of the body do not get attacked by our immune system, others do. And so running these frequencies in that modality is going to be, there's still more studies I know going on about that. And you know, I always say, talk to your physician, your medical care providers, but the thing is, a lot of them don't understand. They don't know yet. Um, you know, technology is advancing faster than the medical model is learning. And we're kind of teaching the medical model based on experience. So, are there any contraindicators? Again, that information is coming out. We'll see. But from a theoretical and from an engineering perspective, as from an electronic and wave theory perspective, those frequencies, from my perspective, this is my perspective, not Healy. Those frequencies are going to move around the molecular structures that are more dense. It's going to move around it and not um, affect it, I guess you might say. They're high frequencies, so they're designed to move around denser molecular structures. So
Yeah,
let's just
I believe that once again, I think once we have more information for the instructions for use over here, we'll be able to give a more detailed answer in regards to that. Now, I do have to say, it's important to keep in mind that one of the main obstacles when it comes to this type of contraindications that are for local issues have to do with the fact that when you use microcurrent, you're using microcurrents on the area of application. Like you don't want to do that, especially if you're using a metal object. Which is why when it comes to using the coil, some of these contraindications don't really apply because it's a more gentle method of application. And something tells me, just like as Ken said, that with the HighWave, the Healy HighWave is going to be a similar situation. But again, I would rather wait until we have a little bit more confirmation of this, and ultimately everybody will have to contact a medical professional if they find themselves in a situation where there are whether they have a foreign object inside of their body or they have a particular condition that may fall under the contraindications that will come with the Healy HighWave, and then they're going to have to determine whether or not they can use the device or not.
Yeah, you know, when I would be less concerned so much about metal implants than I would say pacemakers and things like that. We would definitely want to stay away from those because any kind of triggering or signaling, and again, I'm not a medical professional, but the content indicators are probably going to flow right along, like Henry said, right along with what the microcurrent is going to talk about. You know, it's a very, there's Jake. He's back. He's muted, but he's back. I
I'm
there he
back.
is.
That was an interesting experience.
Yeah, and as soon as Ken got in the call, you got locked out, and then everybody started asking so many different questions.
Hey, you know what?
Um,
It,
all
it's
good.
Hey, you know what? This is a new Tech Tip Tuesdays time slot, so we're learning all kinds of new stuff. And now
Yeah.
all of a sudden the HighWave jumps in. It's like, wow, we got simulation.
Yeah.
So back to, let's see, to Kim's question. There was a question about the HighWave. Is it compatible with the
So yeah,
different?
we were so just to update you, Jake. So we were talking first about that first question because I know Shota was specifically asking about metal rods, right? So this is more of a medical question. We were kind of mentioning that we cannot really answer medical questions, but uh, that we're probably gonna have to wait a little bit until we have the instructions for use of the Healy HighWave to really determine
Yeah.
the placement and all of that in regards to foreign objects. But the second question, and this is where we lost you, was about the earliest version of the Healy. And I know
Yeah.
somebody else asked about, if does that mean that the grandfather Healy editions won't be compatible with it? I think it was, yes, Kim. So yeah, I guess it would be the next question. So whether or not these devices that were before July of 2021 will be compatible with the HighWave.
Yeah. I mean, and really for that, if you remember when we launched the coil, there was a different version of a coil that almost everybody in the US has the version that works with the regular coil, because we only sell one coil on the Healy Shop. But there are some earlier ones, I think from 2019, that there was a the spacing of the prongs was a little bit different as well. And that's the same thing here, essentially, that if you use a regular version of the coil, you'll be able to use the HighWave with no problem with the Healy device. And actually, yeah, it says on the, I don't know the exact year, but like if you go to our Healy Shop, let me just see here, share the window. And this is the page you go to on Shop right now to purchase it. But if you scroll down, it says here, kindly note the HighWave is not compatible with the first generation Healy device model. And actually, there used to be, I don't know if it's still on the Shop. There used to be in the Healy coil. I think it's been removed because there was like a graphic that showed this versus this sort of a thing when it first came out. So I don't think that's. Oh yeah, I think it was related to the notch on the top
notch.
corner of the Healy device. I think that was the indicator. If your device has that cutout in the top right corner, the notch you can use a lanyard or whatever, that one is not compatible with the HighWave.
In your Healy in your Healy 2 app, you can go into the settings. Take a look at MagHealy, and in the MagHealy, it'll show you a firmware version. There's a firmware version, so firmware 229 and 226. Those are the ones that are compatible. Firmware, the one with the little notch out of the top corner, I think was firmware 224. The earlier, right?
Yeah.
And then the HighWave is not compatible with that earlier version. And coil version 1, right? We had a 1 and a 2, like Jake said. Most everybody in the United States is version 1.
Yeah.
And so, especially if you've purchased your Healy in the last 3 years, you're pretty much good. So if you want to take a look at the firmware, first of all, the first recognition you're going to see if you have a Healy with a little notch out of the top corner, it's if you're facing the Healy, it's the top right corner, little notch out of it, which a hole in the middle where you could put a lanyard through. If you've got that one's not compatible. But if you don't, you're probably good.
Yeah. So yeah, most people on here should be good, or they have more than one Healy. Maybe one's not that older version, too. So
there you go. So Kim, hopefully you're probably good, right?
yeah.
Okay. And so Linda's asking a question about, says, my Blue Dot. I can't seem to upload my newer Blue Advisor app. My phone no longer supports my Play Store app. I'm using an older version. I still have on my phone, and it's still working. So again, when we're using older smart devices, right, technology, these guys, unfortunately, app developers have to move forward with the development of the software and the hardware. It's really too hard to keep compatible apps and such for an old flip phone, right? They don't exist anymore. And so there is a minimum operating system for the apps, and that's actually in the App Store, and I think it's still at 11.0 on the both the Healy apps. I think it's the same. It's 11.0 on the Apple Store and maybe 11.2 or something on the Android, but it's still. And right now we're up to what, 17 or 16 something on the iPhone, and I don't know where you're at the Android. But the point is, it does still work with some of the older operating systems, but there will be a point in which it will not. And if you can't load these two new apps, the Healy 2 and the HealAdvisor 2, the reliability will be, iffy at best. And so it's going to be important to have some hardware that still keeps a relatively newer version of its operating system. It's going to be important.
Yeah, absolutely. And from what I understand, the comment from Linda was that even the Play Store itself was no longer being supported, and the default methods of download for all of our apps are going to be either the App Store if you have an iPhone device, an Apple device, or the Play Store if you have an Android device.
No.
Anything else would technically be really non-official. So at this point, really, Jack, if you have a device that you cannot access your default app store, then you're gonna have a difficult time no matter what getting some of our apps or any app from any company,
No.
because most of them will be accessible from there.
Yeah, unfortunately, Healy's not the only one that is regulated by these developers or by the iOS or operating systems. Healy's not the only one. I mean, it is apps across the board. What's an app? It's an app. It's short for application, or the same as program. Okay, so let's say your computer is so old that it's a 32-bit computer and it will no way run a 64-bit program, right? And you're trying to load it on there. It's just the hardware won't support the software. And so, developers are just not, there's no money in the old stuff because there's very few people that have that. And as technology gets better, it's going to require more advanced hardware to accommodate it. And Healy is an extremely advanced system. I mean, using random noise generators to interface with consciousness. Come on, guys. That's not old. I mean, it's theoretically it was old, but now new technology is using it in a whole new way, and we are getting the benefits of it. Okay, so it's important that we, in some way, keep up with the times. Dory's asking a very great question here, and I really want to address this because it has to do with the Blue app, and now these program groups are coming up on the Blue app when doing an analysis, right? So the cool thing about the Blue app is any program group that comes out that shows up when you do a scan, and it shows up on your needs list. Your body, your field needs the programs within the group. And if it shows up on there, and when you vibrate them, you're going to get them. You're going to get them to your quantum field blueprint. The quantum field blueprint can accept any frequency, any information. It's because it's in the information field. If something's in the information field, it's like a drop of water in a sea trying to see itself. Right? It's one drop of water amongst the entire ocean. It doesn't necessarily see itself. It's just part of the whole. So in the information field, that's the whole. And so it has the resource pool to add whatever frequencies Healy's deems necessary to your blueprint, right? Put it into the sea of blueprint that you need, and then that information winds up coming back down into your three-dimensional matter and shifting the matter. It comes through consciousness, right? And changes material form. So the cool thing is you've got the HealAdvisor, you've got a resonance and above edition. You're going to get these and be able to use these frequencies also. Okay.
Remember, guys, that's going to be under the resonance analysis for Healy Programs analysis. If you already have access to this, which you should, you're gonna see both the mind wave and the cell wave there, as well. If you do the All Healy Programs analysis, it may show up there too. But I know Dory was asking, if you should vibrate and whether you have the programs or not. It doesn't really matter. Like, it's two different things, as Ken said. One is more informational. When you vibrate things via the HealAdvisor Analyse 2, we're talking more about information and consciousness. When we send frequencies in the Healy 2, we're talking on more of a material and on a physical perspective, where it's more material, more physical. It's actually traveling through your body. It's a little different. So don't worry, Dory. You can definitely take advantage of those new programs that you have there. And
I did on Friday. I remember it was the first thing I checked on my calendar. I said, check to see if the programs are in the update to the Analyse 2 app. And yeah, it's interesting also when that's on your mind, how it influences the results. Because the number one thing that came up on my All Healy Program Groups analysis on Friday morning was cell wave. had like 76% relevancy, which is super high for me, because that's what I was thinking: cell wave, mind wave, whatever. And that's what popped up, number one.
Like I said, consciousness. This uses a random generator uses conscious interface. And when we as a consciousness are thinking something, right? And this is no different than when your body, to the tune of 800,000 cells per second that are becoming new, 800,000 cells per second. This is epigenetics, folks. 800,000 cells per second are recreating themselves in your body. There's an intelligence that's doing that. You're not. And if you think you are, then I challenge you to have it stop or slow down so you don't age. Go ahead, give it a shot. It's not going to happen. But the cool thing about that is 97% of the genetic code writing to those 800,000, 97% is an adaptive gene that you do have control over. Your thoughts, your awareness, your perceptions, beliefs, assigned meanings, all of that creates the 97%, solidifies the 97% of that genetic code into form in that second. Okay. And this is where Healy interfaces. In that 1 second, Healy interfaces. Now, we think about this. 1 second seems like a very small amount of time, but at the speed of light, there's a lot of content happening in 1 second. And when we're talking about 5 megahertz, that's still a small number compared to the speed of light. Still small number. So there's a lot of information available in a small space to change a huge amount of information in your body. So, and that's why, when Jake is thinking a specific thought, this system picks it up. I imagine our audience can relate to that, and just in the way that they were led to Healy. I was led to Healy by a divine intervention. Well, that's your thought was doing it. Okay. So Dory's saying I got mine in 2000 with no notch. So that means, yeah, take a look, as I mentioned, in the app, in the Healy 2 app, right? The pink app. Down at the bottom right corner is that little gear. Click on that. That's the settings tab. And when you click on that settings tab, there's a line that says MagHealy. Click on MagHealy. The very first, underneath the serial number, because whatever Healy you're connected to, by the way, you need to be connected to a Healy. You can't have your Healy turned off. You have to have your Healy turned on. It connects to the Healy. Under the serial number, there will be a line item that says firmware, right? And there's a number after that. 226 and above. You're going to be fine. But the notch is a good visual. Okay.
Before we move forward, there was a question from before that by Shara. The third question she asked, I saw that she asked, this was in regards to the Healy HighWave, if asking if it would be okay for them to run additional programs beyond the 3 microcurrent programs a day with the Healy HighWave, which at that point, right, it becomes similar to the situation with the coil, right? That a lot of people ask, okay, can I run 3 microcurrent programs and then run as many programs with the coil as I want? And this is what I always tell people in my onboarding calls. This is something that I always encourage people to be intentional. These are guidelines that we offer as Healy, official guidelines that we offer to make sure that everybody's using the Healy in the best way possible and that they're using it in a safe way. However, ultimately, it's going to be at your own discretion to decide what you do with it. So the fact is that anytime you use microcurrent, that's going to be, for the most part, the most direct method of application. And the limit is always going to be 3 based on our official instructions. But as Ken always says, everybody's different and the body changes. And sometimes you may develop a certain degree of tolerance. You may want to do certain adjustments. But when it comes to the Healy HighWave, I would say that it will probably be the same. Again, I always recommend probably waiting until we have more information from the instructions for use. But I would say it's probably the same parameters as with the Healy coil. That microcurrents is one thing, and then when it comes to the Healy coil, the MagHealy, and the Healy HighWave, we're talking about a different type of application that basically overrides the limit of the 3 programs. But again, be intentional. Don't run 10 programs just for the sake of running 10 programs.
Yeah. When you get your HighWave, don't run through all 12 programs in one day just to see how you feel after that too. Yeah, I think for a lot of us, it's just going to be changing our routine up a little bit. Maybe you're used to running 3 microcurrent programs a day. Maybe you're only going to run 1 or 2, and then switch it with 1 or 2 HighWave programs also. So, I know I'm going to be using this. It's going to be my primary. Knowing the technology behind it is definitely going to be my primary method, especially since it's so convenient. Along with still, making sure to incorporate maybe one microcurrent program a day or several per week as well.
We do things based on convenience, right? I mean, a lot of times people are looking for the shortcut, for the instant gratification, for the easy. And so manufacturers, developers, science is always looking for it's efficiency. From an engineer, we're always looking at things in terms of efficiency, because if we can maintain efficiency, we can manage heat and we can manage loss. That's really important. And heat is a similar understanding of loss. When we are losing a signal, we're losing energy somehow. It's typically thermal, right? Somehow we're dissipating energy through some entity or some mass, right? And so when we're creating a device, we want it to be efficient. And this, again, as we raise the frequency of the carrier wave, or the ability to transmit information at a higher frequency, we increase efficiency because it takes less energy to transmit more information. We have a bigger bandwidth. And so that just, again, it saves battery, right? It saves, it also gets more information to a broader reach, which means we have to pay attention to the body even more. When you're putting more information in, I told you 400 billion bits of information per second, but your perception is limited to a smaller bandwidth. And you may feel certain things in the body. And as Jake mentioned, that our bodies acclimate to things. And it's no different than, I don't know, if you ever heard of it's an acquired taste, right? That's one of those things when you taste it, it's like, ew. And people say, no, but it's an acquired taste. It's like, but I don't like it. And so, but if you keep doing it, your chemical receptors in your taste buds acquire tolerance, right? It doesn't matter if it's spicy food or if it's an alcoholic beverage. I don't care. Tart or sweet, you gain tolerance, and so your body gains tolerance to everything over time. And so just like the microcurrent programs, as you start using them, you're super sensitive. You keep the levels down. Over time, you may increase those. You may even do more programs than what's suggested. This is your life, folks. This is your body, people. This is your choice. The manufacturers need to put boundaries on things so that if somebody goes beyond the boundaries or beyond something and they have some adverse effects, they can say, I told you so, right? They say, we want you to be in this bandwidth right here. And when you go over it, you have some adverse effects, something you don't like, you can't blame me, right? It's like, here's the bandwidth and we want to stay with it. Trust me, I push the bandwidth. My intention in life is to see what's next. And I do push the bandwidth. I push it, I push the limits, but I always go back up, evaluate, and course correct. If you don't do that, you're going to wind up in a place in your life where you're doing so many things and you're having good effect and bad effect, and you don't know which one's doing what. So start slow, folks. There is a piece here that someone mentioned here, that they discovered that when they saved the chat when they came in late on the call and they saved the chat, only the portion in where they entered the call was saved to their chat, which is great information. We didn't know that before. So folks, if you're coming in late to the call and you're still saving the chat at the end of the call, you're only going to get the portion of the chat where you've entered the call. However, the recording is going to have the entire information field. And you can go back to the recording. It's usually posted within a couple of days. Every question is hyperlinked, and there's also a transcript. So you're able to see everything that was added. You won't see the chat, but you see we refer to the chat, right? And make sure we address it.
Yeah, actually, I found that out today when I got kicked out of the call earlier. When I went to join again, some of the messages that were coming in, I can't see it. I get a grayed out message saying message sent before you join the meeting. So yeah, there's no official record of it on my side. Even though I'm a host or co-host or whatever, I still don't even see that once I've joined the meeting, anything that happened prior. So good point, good to know going forward. And I know we have a question about MagHealy, which we'll get to here in just a minute. But while we're on this HighWave topic, I just wanted, for those of you looking for more information, so we have the landing page on our US shop, Canada shop, Mexico, and Colombia also. But if you go to Backoffice, there are some good materials there. Has a little bit more information. So let me share this. So you go to Backoffice, and then when you go to Tools, go to Downloads, and then this comes up. And I've filtered, the default is all, but if you filter by new uploads, this is what you'll see. There's a lot of new uploads because the month just started, a week or so ago, and all the different promotions. So there's actually 2 pages of new stuff in Backoffice. So you actually have to go over here, click to the right, and then you go to see page 2 of 2, and you'll see here the HighWave documents. There's a sales tutorial, a presentation, and a flyer. So like, for example, if you just click download and open up the flyer, there's some more information about it, some of the benefits, some of the questions, and then here there's a reference library, and there's a couple of videos here, short videos, but they're worth watching. These are links to the Vimeo pages for these 2 videos. If you just click on them, it'll open up Vimeo, and you'll be able to see them too. But this kind of summarizes all the current information, and like I mentioned before, there's going to be a lot more coming in the next few weeks also on this topic.
Yeah, so there are 2 program groups, and as Henry helped you out there, Carolina, there are 2 program groups, and there are, again, for cell wave and mind wave. So relative to their names, we're gonna be things about the mind and things about the body. So that's pretty cool. There's extra programs that come with the HighWave. When you purchase that, you're going to get those extra program groups. They're still coming up right now, though, on the Blue app when you do the analysis, and you can see them, what they are. You'll see them, and you can use them. So there is I want to address, Anik, I think it is, said that you remember when you first got the Healy and you first started using the wristbands, and there was this itchy feeling, this kind of irritated, but that went away as the body became more acquainted with and acclimated to. But also that itchiness, by the way, folks, that is a light level of arcing. When we're looking at electron flow from one transmitting system to another, so the wires are the way electron flows through, and then the wristband is essentially a transducer, transferring that electron flow from the wristband into your skin, into the cell structures of your skin. Now, not necessarily the outer surface, but the cell itself, and that's requiring some form of conduction. And conduction meaning, if we've got, let's say we have lotions and potions and such on our skin, that's a layer, a coating over the cell. And so that is something that a electron needs to jump through or be forced through in order to get it into the cell. And that cell, when it receives that electron, it's like a jumping of a spark, and a sensation will come to you. Maybe it's itching, maybe it's tingling, whatever it is, it's some sensation. So my suggestion, if you're feeling it itchy, is first wash the area. Okay. Now, if you have hairy arms like me, I have to have these wristbands a little bit tighter. But also, what I do is run the skin under water, good water, right? That increases the surface hydration of the cell, and then run the wristband underwater, and that increases the surface hydration or the conductivity of the material. Then you strap them on, make them not loose, not tight, so where they're cutting off your circulation, but not loose where you can spin them. They should not be able to be spun. Okay, you can feel that grippiness of the wristband to the skin. When you feel that grippiness, that means it's conduction, and you'll be less likely to have itchiness or that pinching feel. Also, folks, wash your wristbands. Why? Do you wash your body? Well, that's why. Your wristbands get funky just like the body does. And when that wristband gets funky, it's no different than putting solutions on your skin. It builds a barrier. Wash them with a pH balanced soap, dish liquid, whatever. Rinse them. They're waterproof. Rinse them off, shake them off. That's actually the best time to put them right on your body because they're moist and ready to go. Get your body moist, get the wristband moist, bam. You're going to be solving a lot of things. Okay. All right.
Yeah, but before we go, last thing I wanted to mention, there was a question on MagHealy about the water program. So we have the water application, and you know, if you're trying to infuse these quantum analyzed frequencies into more than one container, the question, so this person has several plastic containers of water and they want to activate them at the same time. The question was, should I put the MagHealy on top or sandwiched vertically sort of in the middle of these containers? And it really depends on the shape of the container, but in general, you want the bottom of this part of the MagHealy to be as close to the biggest volume of water as possible. So if it's like a tapered at the top or whatever, and a big part of the bottom, you're not going to want to put it on top. You're going to want to put it near the biggest section of water, or biggest volume of water there too. So if it's easier just to put it vertically up against the side, you know, kind of at the bottom where the biggest space is there too, that works. But in general, I think you have a couple options for here. It's not like if you put it on top, it's not like it's not going to get any benefit there also.
First of all, I would not recommend using plastic containers. Okay.
Oh yes, that's another story.
I'm just going to say that. I would not recommend using plastic containers. Secondly, I would recommend one container divided up into smaller containers, right? So infuse the water, as Jake said. You don't, okay, guys, now this is not plastic. Yeah. It's metal. It doesn't work with metal. Clear glass, glass. Okay. And if it's just sitting up against it like this, that's great. But if you have to lean it a little bit so it doesn't fall over, that's okay too. But just remember, it's not really the surface area contact of the glass or the container. The surface area contact of the container is not relevant. The proximity to it and the angle of it to the volume of mass is what Jake is saying. That's the relativity. Okay, so if you have to have it a quarter inch away from it because it's a rounded surface, right? Yeah. That's okay. That's okay. Just make it to the largest surface volume, and do a big volume. Do a big volume, and then pour it into smaller containers if you're trying to share it with folks. That's the best way. Glass. Yeah. Okay, it's clear. All right.
Yeah.
All right, guys. A lot of great questions here. I mean, anything you guys want to close with?
No, we'll be here to continue to answer questions on HighWave and other new releases, and along the way, it's going to be fun for all of us to be experiencing it together as well and learning more.
Yeah, I love it. So, folks, the limitations of the Zoom platform is not up to us. It's not up to Healy. It's not up to me. The manufacturers, creators of that software, they build a platform for us to utilize. And so the fact that someone comes in late and that information is not available from the chat, that's not under our control. So we have no way of changing the Zoom platform. So get here on time, use the recording at your will, and you'll get the best benefit out of it. And I know we have a new time, and maybe it doesn't fit your schedule. This is just something we're trying to offer in a general way to give you the most benefit. The recording is going to be a huge asset for you guys. So anyway, thanks everybody. Appreciate you being here, and just copy some of the links that you see on there.
I just put the email address in there. If you can't make it live on the call, if you send any questions you want to hear covered on Tech Tip Tuesday, you can email them in advance to onboarding.us@healy.world. And if we have a moment, we'll try to fit some of those, into the call too. So,
And just to close off, because I know Dory asked this, and I know we're past time, but I just wanted to let you know, Dory, like it is fine sometimes to use a pouch like that, like a little cover for the MagHealy and the Healy, like a little bag. But ideally, the best effects and the best benefits you're gonna get if the less exposed and cover it is with any kind of container that you're using. Just to make you aware of that.
Well, thank you guys for the kudos. Some of you guys are loving the new time. Awesome. Share it, please. The best way of loving the world is sharing things you love. So, all right, you guys. Thanks for being here, Jake. Thank you, Henry. Much love to everybody in the audience. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.
everyone.